No one must ever know. Not about the woman, not about the child, not about what I've done. The words slipped out in the dark, low, controlled, but trembling beneath the surface. Because somewhere in the city, a man still trusted his king. A woman carried a secret she didn't choose. And a decision had already been made that could not be undone. By the next sunrise, loyalty would be betrayed, innocence would be buried, and a crown would be stained with blood. If you're drawn to stories like this, stories that uncover what power tries to hide, welcome to Bible Story Universe. Subscribing is a quiet way to support the journey. Now, the story begins. Night had settled over Jerusalem, but sleep avoided the king. David walked alone on the rooftop, restless, distant from the battlefield where he was meant to be. The sounds of war were far away, replaced by a dangerous stillness. It was in that stillness that his eyes wandered, and found her. Bathsheba. She moved with quiet purpose, unaware of being watched. This was no act of display. It was a moment of cleansing, of obedience, of privacy. But privacy can be fragile when power is watching. David didn't turn away. "Who is she?" he asked. The answer came swiftly. The daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah. That name should have ended everything. Uriah was not just a soldier. He was loyal, proven, the kind of man who would die before betraying his king. But David made a choice that ignored all of that. Bring her. No questions. No refusal. Just a command. And when a king commands, silence often follows. What happened next was not spoken of. No witnesses stepped forward. No voices challenged it. But consequences do not wait for permission. Days later, a message reached the palace. "I am with child." Simple words, heavy with truth. David stared at them, feeling the weight of something he could not control. This was no longer hidden. Unless he made it so. Send for Uriah. The plan seemed easy. Bring the husband home. Let him return to his wife. Let the child appear as his. A solution built on deception. But truth has a way of resisting. Uriah arrived from the battlefield, weary but steady. David greeted him with unusual warmth, asking about the war, the men, the fight. Then came the suggestion. Go home. Rest. Be with your wife. But Uriah didn't move. The ark and Israel remain intense, he said. My brothers are at war. I cannot go home while they suffer. So he slept outside the palace. Loyal, even when no one was watching. David tried again. He offered food, wine, comfort. Still Uriah refused. And with every refusal, the king's situation grew darker. Because the more honorable Uriah proved to be, the more exposed David's sin became. There was only one way left. And it was irreversible. David wrote a letter, sealed it, and placed it in Uriah's hands. A message the man would carry faithfully, to his own death. Set him in the fiercest battle, it read. Then withdraw from him. No argument. No defense. No chance. Uriah returned to war as he always had, loyal, committed, unaware. And when the moment came, it unfolded exactly as written. The fighting intensified. The lines shifted. The command to pull back was given. But Uriah was left behind. Alone. Surrounded. Fighting for a king who had already decided his fate. And then, silence. Back in Jerusalem, the report arrived. Uriah was dead. The messenger spoke cautiously, unsure how the king would respond. But David remained composed. The sword devours one as well as another, he said. As if it were ordinary. As if it meant nothing. But somewhere in the city, Bathsheba wept. She mourned her husband with genuine sorrow. The loss was real. The pain was deep. And though she didn't yet see the full picture, her life had already been reshaped by it. When her mourning ended, David brought her into the palace. She became his wife. And in time, she gave birth. It looked like everything had been resolved. The scandal buried. The truth hidden. The future secured. But there is something no power can silence. God sees. And when He speaks, no throne can stand untouched. A prophet named Nathan came to David, not with accusation, but with a story. A rich man. A poor man. One had many flocks. The other had only one small lamb, loved, cherished like family. But when a guest arrived, the rich man refused to take from his own abundance. Instead, he took the poor man's only lamb. David's anger burned instantly. "That man deserves to die," he declared. Nathan looked at him and spoke words that shattered everything. "You are the man." The room fell silent. In that moment, truth was no longer hidden. David's sin stood exposed, before God, before the prophet, before himself. And the weight of it broke him. "I have sinned," he confessed. Not as a king, but as a man who could no longer deny what he had done. Forgiveness came. But consequences followed. The child born from that night fell ill. David fasted, prayed, lay on the ground, refusing comfort, pleading for mercy. Days passed. But the outcome did not change. The child died. Silence filled the palace once again. Grief returned, but this time, it was deeper, heavier, unavoidable. Bathsheba had now lost everything once before, and now again. Yet her story did not end there. In time, she bore another son, Solomon, a child not marked by scandal, but by promise. Loved by God, chosen for a future that would restore what had been broken. Years later, when David grew weak and the throne stood uncertain, Bathsheba stepped forward, not as a victim, but as a voice. She reminded the king of his promise. She stood with courage. And because of her, Solomon became king. The same woman whose story began in silence, now stood in authority. Honored, remembered, seated beside the throne. And generations later, her name would echo again. Not in shame, but in legacy. Because through her line came Jesus. A reminder that even in the darkest chapters, God is still writing something greater. If this story changed the way you see things, don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Bible Story Universe for more powerful stories like this. Because sometimes, the stories we think are broken are the very ones God uses to reveal His greatest grace.